إله إلا هو الله الله لا إله إلا هو الله الله لا إله إلا هو الله الله لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس لا إله إلا هو المؤمن المهيمن لا إله إلا هو العزيز الجبار لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الخالق الأنباري لا إله إلا هو المتكبر الخالق لا إله إلا هو الباري المصور لا إله إلا هو الغفار القاهر لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الغفار القاهر لا إله إلا هو الوهاب الرزاق لا إله إلا هو الفتاه العليم لا إله إلا هو القابض الباسط لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو المعز المذل لا إله إلا هو السميع البصير لا إله إلا هو الحاكم العادل لا إله إلا هو اللطيف الخبير لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الحليم العظيم لا إله إلا هو الغفور الشكور لا إله إلا هو العلي الكبير لا إله إلا هو المحيط المقيت لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الحفيظ المقيت لا إله إلا هو الحسيب الجليل لا إله إلا هو الكريم الرقيب لا إله إلا هو المجيب الواسع لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الحكيم الودود لا إله إلا هو الماجد الباعث لا إله إلا هو الشاهد الحق لا إله إلا هو الحق الوكيل لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو القوي المتين لا إله إلا هو الولي الحميد لا إله إلا هو المحصي المبدئ لا إله إلا هو المعيد المحيي لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو المحيي المميت لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا إله إلا هو الواجد الماجد لا إله إلا هو الواحد الأحد لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الأحد الصمد لا إله إلا هو القادر المقتدر لا إله إلا هو المقدم المؤخر لا إله إلا هو الأول الآخر لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الظاهر الباطن لا إله إلا هو الغني المتعالي لا إله إلا هو البر التواب لا إله إلا هو التواب المنعم لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو المقيم العفو لا إله إلا هو العفو الرؤوف لا إله إلا هو مالك الملك ذو الجلال والإكرام الله مالك الملك ذو الجلال والإكرام الله 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 لا إله إلا هو 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 الله المقسط لا إله إلا هو الجامع الغني لا إله إلا هو المغني المعطي لا إله إلا هو المانع الضار لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو النافع النور لا إله إلا هو الحادي المبدع لا إله إلا هو الباقي الوارث لا إله إلا هو الرشيد الصبور لا إله إلا هو الله الله 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 لا إله إلا هو الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير نعم المولى ونعم النصير وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وعلينا معهم وفيهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. when we invoke prayers, with these prayers that we invoke, and peace upon Prophet Muhammad, his family, companions, and all who follow them in goodness until the day of judgment. We ask Allah that these be upon us, with them and among them. We ask Allah that by His mercy, and He is the most merciful of the merciful. Allahumma a'inna ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. We ask you, O Allah, aid us in remembering you, thanking you, and worshipping you with excellence, with ihsan. ربنا زدنا علما ووسع لنا في أرزاقنا وبارك لنا فيما رزقتنا. O our Lord, increase us in knowledge, expand our sustenance, and bless for us what you provided for us. وجعلنا محبوبين في قلوب عبادك وأعزاء في عيونهم ووجهاء في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين. O Allah, make us beloved to the hearts of your servants, make us precious in their eyes, make us of influence in this world and the next, and of those brought near. يا كثير النوال يا حسن الفعال يا قائما بلا زوال فلك الحمد والمنة والشرف على كل حال. اللهم أعنا على ذلك وفوضنا أمورنا إليك وتوكلنا عليك يا مولانا. We ask you your aid in this, O Allah, and we consign the outcome of this to you, O Allah. And we ask you we depend upon you in this, O Allah, and aid us in this. We ask you that by your mercy, and you're the most merciful of the merciful. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. And our intention, just to introduce, thank you all who have attended. And there's a blessing in things that are done early. Probably people will trickle in, but you all, there's a blessing in being here early. And there's also a merit in establishing a good practice. So those that follow you, you message, or they come and they say, oh, hey, so-and-so's in there, why don't I have a seat? You get rewarded for that. And we need to work at that in our communities. Academic or knowledge discipline. We've got to become disciplined. There has to be some study. We've done some singing, we've recited Quran, we've prayed, we've done dhikr. That makes your heart feel a certain way. You also have to have disciplined learning. You have to have some learning. So most of the rest of the sessions today will be sessions of learning. And our objective, and Imam Sulaimaan referenced, he said that these are masters and they'll be teaching. We don't claim to be masters. We hope that we've met masters and recognize their mastery, and we understand that they don't make claims. Our intention, and Sheikh Jamal and I talked about this, is to get back to our own roots of what we're supposed to be doing as seekers of knowledge and share this with you. We had the opportunity to attend a meeting for an intensive where our teacher, Habib Omar, who's visited you, and who we know who would be very happy that we're here, and when the message reaches him that we've been here to pray for this, he was meeting a group of his more elite students, really, and organizers, and they were going to be receiving young people in the summer intensive that don't normally have the opportunity to study knowledge. Right? And he said, our intention first is to benefit ourselves. What Sheikh Jamal and I, and Sheikh Amin, and Imam Sulaimaan, Sheikh Saeed, we need what's in this. Because it's from Allah's book and the sunnah of His messenger. Right? And if at any point one of us stopped that, he should put away his books and go do something else. We're here to learn, right? So Habib said, our first aim is ourselves, and then our full-time students, and then our brothers who are coming. So the objective of this is for us to come together, elders, young people, men, women, from the Ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to lend the ear and give the ear of our hearts to what his heirs have said about the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we can take it and apply it and benefit between us and Allah. This intensive, as we mentioned, is not just these lessons. More importantly, it's the prayers that we'll pray during these hours that we remain together. Right? Just like Sheikh Jamal said, we're going to start on time. Consider it even more important to be there on time for each of these congregational prayers. Sheikh Jamal would concur. One of the things we learned in our time studying was the knowledge of the opening at Allahu Akbar with the Imam, where we're trying to learn it. That's a lesson in and of itself. And our shuyukh would say, if you see a seeker of knowledge who's not concerned about the first Allahu Akbar with the Imam, dust your hands at him. They say that in Arabia because it's dusty. We'd say, wash your hands at him, right? Don't anticipate good to come from them. And not meaning to discourage someone, but saying you should be encouraged about the importance of this takbir, right? So these classes are part of your learning. The opening Allahu Akbar is part of your learning. Trying to be present in those prayers is part of your learning. The fellowship with the believers when we eat or other things, that's part of the learning. The Quran that we recite, that's part of the learning. And the objective of this is, as was mentioned, for Sheikh Jamal and the Fakir and the brothers, to share with you some of the knowledge that Allah placed on our shoulders to transmit. And the text that we'll be basing or drawing from for this intensive is called Al-Arba'in fi Usul Ud-Deen. The 40 principles of the religion, or the 40 fundamentals of the religion. It is a work by a great, great Imam, Hujjatul Islam, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Right? Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. According to Al-Imam al-Haddad, none of our theologians are placed before him. Right? Many of our scholars have said, if all of the other books that have been authored by Islamic scholars were to perish, and we just had Imam al-Ghazali's revival of the religious sciences, that would suffice. In law, he was a great, great jurist. Right? Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, who's like the mufti of the late Shafi'i school, you could say. Fatwa in the Shafi'i school comes from the books of Ibn Hajar. Ibn Hajar said, if all of the Shafi'i school was lost, you could re-author the school from Imam al-Ghazali's Ihya. Right? So, Imam al-Ghazali, he was the reviver of the 5th Islamic century. He lived from like 450 to 505. He was an orphan. His father left him with a brother of his father for Allah's sake. And when the money ran out, this man, and this was a man of light, he said, I'm not able to support you anymore, but go to one of the Islamic schools and you'll be able to eat along with the stipend or the support that those students are given. So he said of himself, we sought knowledge for other than Allah, but knowledge refused to be for anything but Allah. Right? So he studied and excelled. Right? He excelled to the point that he occupied the most prestigious teaching position in the most prestigious institute of his time at Al-Nizamiyya in Baghdad. Right? He excelled in theology, and he has books that he's authored. Lengthy works, moderate works, short works that he's authored in Islamic creed. Right? He excelled in law as well as its fundamentals, usul and fiqh. From the point of view of his knowledge of fiqh, as we referenced, by discipline, he was trained in the discipline of the Shafi'i school. Right? And that's not to the exclusion of the book and the sunnah, that's a school of interpreting the book and the sunnah. Right? In the Shafi'i school, fatwa comes from books that are summarized from his book. Right? He had a book called Al-Wajiz, which was summarized by an imam called Imam Rafi'i. And his book is called Muharrar. Muharrar was summarized by an imam called Imam al-Nawawi. You know Imam al-Nawawi from Riyadh al-Salihin, and more recently the Adkar. Fatwa in the Shafi schools comes from Imam Nawawi's books, which are a summary of the summary of Imam al-Ghazali's Wajiz. Al-Mustasfa in legal theory, one of the greatest works. He was such a scholar that he would study a discipline and inform the masters of that discipline about subtleties that they were unaware of in their discipline. Philosophy, language, you have it. He reached a point where he feared for his own sincerity, right? And he left his teaching position, and they said that that's one of the most greatest misfortunes that's befallen Islam at that time. And then he secluded himself and worshipped Allah. He traveled to the Haramain. He traveled and eventually to Quds and eventually in Damascus and secluded himself there and worked on his own heart and his own sincerity and came out of that period having authored the revival of the religious sciences, which again, as we say, people say if all of the other books perished, that would remain. And he authored many other beneficial works. And one of the things that's a benefit about the works of Imam Haddad is he's talking about something he's applied to himself. Right? And he's talking with immense knowledge, and our conviction is deep sincerity. And Allah has given a success to His works and preserved them to the extent that we're now 9 centuries since the anniversary of the authorship of Ihya Ud-Deen. And here, continents away from there in a different language, people still gain from that ocean, and their hearts are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger, and their characters are refined. So this work, to a degree, they say it's like an adaptive summary. You could say to a degree some of it's summarized from Ihya, but it's a standalone book, Al-Arba'in. And Imam Al-Ghazali, he says, this book, Al-Arba'in, is a chapter of a book called Jawahir al-Quran, the gems of the Quran, which is like a thematic tafsir of the Quran, right? Where he mentions the various meanings that exist in the Quran. So then, and you'll have a look at his introduction. He said, if you're asking me what are the summary and objectives of these verses of the Quran, can you summarize them for me? I say, yes, I can. So what is he doing in this book? He's summarizing meanings in the Quran for us. And he said that practice is divided into outward and inward, right? And actually, let me just glance at this so I don't mess it up, because he's one of the things is he's really he does a lot of logical breakdowns, and he says the sum of objectives is divided into knowledge and practice, right? So the aims of the verses of the Quran can be divided into knowledge and practice. Practice is divided into outer and inner practice, right? So you have knowledge, which Sheikh Jamal will begin with. And then you have practice. Practice is outward practice and inward practice, right? Outward practice is like how to purify yourself, how to pray, how to. Inward practice is works of the heart. Works of the heart are divided into purifying your heart from vices, like what Sheikh Jamal will cover in envy, and adorning your heart with virtues, like what Sheikh Amin will talk about when he talks about sabr, right? So he summarizes these meanings of verses of the Quran into 4 areas that are aims for us to aspire to. Outward practice, inward practice, purifying the heart from vices, adorning the heart with virtues. Right? Knowledge, I missed that. Knowledge, practice. Purifying the heart, knowledge, you could say outward worship. Purifying the heart from vices, adorning the heart with virtues. Right? So those are 4 areas. Learning, worshiping, purifying the heart, improving the character. 4 areas, right? Each of these areas has 10 chapters. So that is what? The 40 principles. You're going to have 10 principles on knowledge, and that's knowledge about Allah and His Messenger and the unseen. Sheikh Jamal is going to cover that with you. You're going to have 10 principles about worship, right? And there'll be a section of that that's covered. I believe Sheikh Amin will cover dhikr of Allah. You have 10 sections on purifying the heart. Sheikh Jamal will cover from that, talking about envy. I'll cover from that, talking about greed. And then 10 sections on adorning the heart with virtues. Sheikh Amin will talk about the virtue of patience. And I will cover the virtue of fear of Allah and hope of Allah. Right? So we're going to cover portions of this text. And part of the aim is to connect you to it, that you continue working on it. Another part of the aim is that we started this series in Detroit with Sheikh Jamal, right? He covered most of the sections of knowledge, and he'll finish them here, and those will be on YouTube, and these will be uploaded to YouTube on Al-Rahma's YouTube page. And inshallah, Imam Sulaimaan can grab the link and share it with you all, perhaps on your website. So that we go through a series intensives, we go through the whole text. But you yourselves, we advise you to acquire it and benefit from it on your own, as well as in the recorded lectures, and what you benefit from in the intensive. And we just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us sincerity in this, and that He aid us in this. And again, remember that the knowledge we're aspiring to isn't just the information that Sheikh Jamal will transmit, and that's very noble and of great benefit. But if we take this sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we apply it to our own heart and our own organs, right? Our eyes, our ears, our tongue, our body, we worship Allah with it, that bequeaths our heart a second type of knowledge that is the fruit of acting on the first type of knowledge, right? And that is how the heart grows and improves, and we come closer to Allah, and our hearts become more knowledgeable of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's articulated in the saying, someone who acts upon what they have learned, Allah bequeaths them, meaning grants them to inherit, or gives them knowledge of what they knew not. Right? And those are meanings that Allah teaches the heart of the servant who has taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He mentions that in the Quran, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهِ. Right? Have taqwa of Allah, and Allah teaches you. So that's truly what we're aspiring to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to deepen our faith, that our character becomes improved, that our hearts are purified, our practice improves, and it's a great light. You know, we're very, very hopeful. Not because of anything that we are or have, but because of Allah's goodness and the immense conviction we have in Imam al-Ghazali and our chain to him, and the teachings that we believe he articulated from Allah's book and from the Sunnah of the Messenger, that as we referenced in the khutbah, that this knowledge, it's being transmitted here, and that's a blessing. In other times when you learn, and we hope in this time, let us take this, brothers and sisters, and take it strong. Please, to the degree that you can, acquire the book. If you're not able to afford it, inshallah, you'll find a PDF or someone will help you out, but make an intention to acquire the text. Try to follow along during these lessons and take it and review afterwards. Take notes and see that as gems from Allah's book, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Gems from the kitab that this great Imam has summarized and understood for us and clarified. Take them, learn them, apply them, and anticipate from Allah a grace and an increase in knowledge that it granted to you. And we ask Allah to accept. And I'm going to leave you with Sheikh Jamal, and he doesn't need an introduction. He's our host, but we'll just say he's beloved to us, and we have a conviction in what he's taken from our shuyukh, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. And we ask Allah that by His mercy, and He's the most merciful of the merciful. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Arhamar Rahimin, Ya Allah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله على سيدنا المرسلين خاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum. So, first, as always, I want to I'm glad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to be together. It's always a blessing for me to be in these kinds of situations, because it's a chance for me to kind of get back on track. It's a way for me to also remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be in gatherings of goodness. And also because I get to be with some of these beloved brothers, whom some live here in Atlanta I don't get to see too often, and some live far away that I have to call, and hopefully they pick up the phone, and I just ask for a little advice from time to time, or just want to hear their voice. I make up stuff just because I want to be able to talk to them. So I'm very happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me to be within their presence, and it's always good to be around people that help you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's as the Prophet ﷺ said, that your companion can be like that of the blacksmith or that of the perfume dealer. Well, those who help you remember Allah obviously are like the perfume dealer, because you always walk away with something good, something memorable, something that benefits you. And You know, it's just good to be around people like that. You know, I always say that, you know, everybody comes to the Sheikh when the Sheikh has a problem, when they have problems, but who does the Sheikh go to when he has problems? You know, I'm not a Sheikh, but at the same time, love, you know, allowed me to be in a particular position. And so to be in their presence is always a blessing. So I thank Allah for that. Secondly, we have to remember, as our teacher, Habib Umar, used to say in our class, well, he said to us one time in our class, because, you know, students, he asked a question, simple question in a Nahu class, and none of the students could answer. And then he looked at him, and first he got mad, then he kind of calmed down, like, it was like night and day, and he said, لا يدرسوا للاختيار والاختبار يدرسوا على اختيار, which means that you don't study for the test, you study because you were chosen. Right? You're chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gain these things. You know, you're not just here studying just because, you know, you just wanted to. It wasn't something you just did. This was what Allah gave you. It was what Allah had written for you to come to be a part of, and to accept, and to hopefully gain something of what He has to offer you, right? In terms of knowledge of Himself, knowledge of His deen. And so from that perspective, all of us today have been chosen. As Sheikh AbdulKarim mentioned, this is a barakah about coming in the morning. How many people aren't here? So whatever you get from this gathering at this moment, even before I even say a word about anything, you've already gotten a lot just from listening to the qasida. You got a lot just listening from the introduction. Right? And then whatever Allah blesses to come out of what we're about to present, you receive. So the question is, what will you receive? And having said that, I ask all of you and myself first that we just take a quick second to renew your intention for why you're here. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with knowledge, and bless you with the opportunity to learn something you did not know, and something that will help you become closer to Him. Because if you're not looking for that, then you're in the wrong place. You shouldn't be here. You know, we don't get knowledge, we don't study. First of all, it's not knowledge when all your intention is to gain a little bit so you can go and argue points. That's not knowledge, that's the acquisition of information. Knowledge is something that is actually experienced, it's lived, it's known. It's not just something I can just regurgitate some names and a couple of pages, you know, that I've read from and this kind of thing. That's not knowledge. Alhamdulillah, if you got that kind of memory, Allahu Akbar. I have one teacher, Sheikh Omar Hussein al-Khatib. Someone said something to him and he got upset and he said, oh yeah, it's on Sahih Bukhari, page 45, line 42, you know, and then he called himself and started, you know, seeking refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because for him, it became an issue of argumentation and, you know, proof and all these kind of things. He stopped doing it for Allah and started doing it for his own nufus, his own nafs, his own desires. You understand? That's not knowledge. What we're looking at is to become people of experience. That's what we're looking for. So hopefully your intention today is to become renewed within your covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That covenant that we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasulullah. We say that every day. Hopefully more than just in the 5 prayers that we make. Meaning we're praying other things outside just the 5 prayers. But that statement has to have feeling and conviction. It has to have some substance. It has to have some truth or some reality to it. And so therefore, we are looking to renew ourselves before our Lord. And hopefully you, inshallah, you'll make that your intention for being here today. And inshallah ta'ala, that with that, and everything that we do, you're going to come with an empty cup. Even if you've studied this stuff before, even if you've heard this stuff before, even if you've sat with some of the highest you're coming with what? An empty cup. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be able to fill you with something today. Okay? La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. So, in this beginning section, we're talking about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says in the Quran, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. know that there is no deity of worship except Allah. When Musa alayhi salam asked the Prophet, asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a dhikr, something he could say which was powerful, Allah told him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, say La ilaha illallah. So anybody can say that. So if you knew the weight of La ilaha illallah, you wouldn't ask him for anything else. So our intent here today is to learn and understand La ilaha illallah. Our issue, our science of Tawheed. Not Aqidah, Tawheed. Tawheed is understanding the uniqueness of Allah, or we can say understanding how we separate creator from creation. That's what Tawheed is. It's understanding the difference between the creator and what? Creation. Having said that, when we have to understand also, as we move forward, the principles of Godhood from the Islamic theological standpoint. What are the 5 principles of Godhood? First, an outward. Right? Allah is what? We say the one in just regular terms. But it means He is what? Eternal without beginning. In order for God to be God, you have to be what? Eternal without a beginning. If you've got a beginning, you can't claim to be a God. Impossible. Because that meant you had a beginning and something brought you into existence. And as we understand, Allah was not brought into any existence. Allah existed. Before existence even was in existence. We say Al-Akhir. That Allah is Al-Akhir, meaning He is what? The everlasting without end. So we have eternal without beginning, everlasting without end. Right? Allah is everlasting. He has no end. Again, He has no beginning. He has no end. I know there was a question once someone asked, well, you know, heaven and hell are also everlasting. So are they like Allah? No. Because they're only everlasting because Allah willed them to be everlasting. In other words, they had a beginning. They had a creation. They were created. And because Allah created them, there's their beginning. And the only reason why they're everlasting is because Allah has willed it to be as such. So it's dependent upon Allah. See, it's not independent of itself. It's dependent upon Allah. As is all creation. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Then we say Al-Qayyum. Right? Al-Qayyum. Meaning that He is what? Not subjugated by change. There is no change with Allah. Change is an attribute of imperfection. Like a snake has to change its scales. Right? It sheds skin after a little while. Because it's changing. The human being changes. We started out crawling. Well, before that, we were just sitting around, screaming out, you know, trying to articulate something. Then we started crawling. Then we started walking. Then we started running. This is change. This is progression. Right? We got older. Rheumatism set in. Arthritis. Started walking funny. Brothers didn't pray before, and all of a sudden wish they could get on their knees and make prostration. Stuck in a chair. And I'm not trying to be light of anyone's situation, so forgive me, I'm not trying to be offensive. But you understand the point. We're changing. We go from infancy to older age. We become more seasoned. And then we pass on. Things change. One minute I was big. I was 300-something pounds. And then I got on the diet. And I've been exercising and running and jogging. And now I'm down to 100-something pounds. That's change. Allah does not change. And remember that Allah created change. And again, Allah is not subjugated by His what? Creation. as we'll talk about a little bit more. Allah doesn't have a place. Allah exists without need of a place to exist. That's why He's Allah. To say that He's in a place suggests what? Space, area, location. Allah created space, area, location. Matter, mass needs what? Space. So Allah's not like His creation. He's not subjugated to His creation. Because if you say that He's in a space, well, then you've limited Him to a area or a location which He has created. He ain't created for Himself. Again, Allah exists without need of a place to exist. Right? He's not subjugated to His creation. You gotta understand, these are our base principles of Godhood. Next we say Al-Khaliq. Right? We say He's the creator. So that means He's what? Not created. Right? We say, in the fifth one, we say an ayat of Quran, Surah Asra, verse ayat number 11, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Is that correct? Asra, Surah, Surah, ayat number 11, Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. That there is nothing like unto Him. So that means He is not like His creation. So He's not subjugated by creation, nor is He like creation. Because again, to say that He's like creation suggests that He has mass. Mass suggests place, because mass cannot exist without a place to exist. Period. It's illogical. So therefore, Allah cannot be like His creation. So the idea that Allah is like human, like another man, like creation, we're creating His image, these things cannot happen, cannot exist. Because then He has to have a place to reside. And that's an attribute of imperfection. Because it suggests what? Need. Mass has to have. That means you need something. So that means that you need to be within a place. So if you need something, then that's an attribute of imperfection. That means you're dependent. How can you be independent and call yourself a God when you need a place to live? Does that make sense to you? I mean, seriously, does that make sense? I mean, I'm literally asking you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So when we're talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or anytime we ever talk about God, we should automatically fall back to these 5 principles about Godhood. And again, this is for you personally. Again, it's not for argumentation's sake. You might have to talk to some people about who is God and what is the Islamic view on God. Okay, alhamdulillah. But again, this is something you have to believe yourself. One of the things about Aqidah as a whole, specifically about Tawheed, this is something you cannot make taqleed to. Taqleed means you can't just follow. You can't hear the Sheikh tell you something and you just follow it. That's not permissible in Islam, not in this science. Maybe in fiqh, because you don't really have the time or the efforts, and many of us do not have the time or the efforts, other linguistical skills to go into the Quran and the Sunnah and be able to extract out, different things, understand how we're supposed to do things in terms of our prayer, wudu, and business, and marriage, and divorce, and these kinds of things. And so that's why we have scholars that we fall back on, and if they're wrong, well then it's okay in a sense for us because it falls back on that scholar. That's why you got to watch what you say. Because if you telling somebody to do something that's wrong, guess what? That falls back on you and everybody else that they've told. Right? As in the hadith in the Sahih Muslim, where the Prophet ﷺ says that anyone who comes and brings a new sunnah to my religion, right? We'll have the khayr of it. If there's a good sunnah, we'll have the khayr of it and the khayr of all those who follow it, not taking anything away from them. But anyone who brings a bad sunnah will have the punishment for that, as well as that from everyone else that follows what they've said, what they've brought. So if we understand it from that perspective, then we also understand that, okay, you got to be careful about just running your mouth. I'm just being frank with everybody. We're at home, right? So being frank. You have to be careful about what you say, because if you tell people something wrong and everybody follows it, guess what? That falls on you. Even Imam Shafi'i, may Allah be pleased with him, said that I had these opinions. These are my older opinions, but now as he studied and he learned, was exposed to more hadith and different aspects of deen, he began to have newer opinions. And he'll tell people, if you follow my older opinions, that's on you. Meaning, I've come up with some new stuff here. So if you follow those stuff, I was kind of wrong about that. So if you're following that, whatever happens, but it's your fault. But if you follow what I'm saying here, and I'm wrong, it falls on my neck. It falls on me. And he's taking the weight of that. And that's heavy. That's saying that I'm prepared to stand before Allah on this. And everybody who follows what I'm saying, I'm prepared to stand before Allah with all these people. Now think about it. Imam Shafi'i died centuries ago. All these people in all these different countries that followed his opinions. It's a lot of people. There's a lot of sins to be trying to take on. Not to mention the ones you already have for yourself. And all the things that everybody else has done. So it's deep. So again, you have to believe in this stuff for yourself. You have to have what? Conviction, certainty. You have to have sidq. That means absolute conviction in what you say you believe in. We have to have absolute conviction in Allah. Absolute conviction in Allah. He is who He says He is. He is the things that we have come to learn Him to be by way of the attributes that He has given us to know Him by. Right? This is important. This is important. Also, we should understand that there are two types of ayats in the Quran. There's muhkama and mutashabbiha. Muhkama are definitive ayats. When we read them, there's no ambiguity. There's no vagueness. As I heard the Sheikh mentioning to a brother a moment ago at breakfast, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in the ayat that I even gave you, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. Right? Laysa ka mithlihi. Zakir. What does the kaf mean in grammar? Oh yes, I gotta do that. That's what happens when you study with me and you come to my class. A kaf is a what? In Arabic grammar. It's a harf al-jar. Right? It's a harf al-jar. And it means to resemble something. Right? It means to resemble something. But the word mithl in Arabic also means to resemble something, to be like something. So Allah puts laysa ka mithlihi, right? He puts two words that mean the same thing together to emphasize the fact, and we can say in English, that there is absolutely, unequivocally nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? He threw tawqeed on you. Tawqeed means to emphasize something. He wants you to understand that there is absolutely no question. I can't even find English words. I'm sorry, my English is just limited to even describe the power, the strength, the weight of saying that there is nothing like unto Him. That's just to say there's nothing like unto Him is so weak in terms of what it really means. There is nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in no shape, fashion, or form, as we're going to begin to start talking about right now. But this is a muhkama ayah, meaning it is clear. Mutashabbiha means it could mean something, multiple things. Means that it could have, there's no definitive way of looking at this particular ayah. Right? In Surah Al-Imran, ayah number 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He has sent to us a book that within it are ayahs that are what? Definitive, muhkama. They're definitive. And there are also ayahs that are mutashabbiha, that are vague, that are ambiguous. And he said that there are those people, this is Allah talking now, he says there are those people who will follow the mutashabbaha to cause fitna. And to what? Make ta'wil, to make a commentary upon those ayahs. But only Allah, and Allah says in the Quran, only Allah knows the meaning of these ayahs. And those who are intelligent follow what Allah gives and accepts them as they are. Don't believe me? Look it up yourself, folks. Al-Imran, ayah number 7. Look it up. I want you to read it. In fact, I want you to memorize it. I want you to memorize it. Because this is what we see. Now, in this issue of finding or following things that are what? Muhkama. Because in Tawheed we follow things that are definitive, not things that are vague. Even when it comes to hadith, we have two types of hadith. One is called mutawatir and one is called ahad. Mutawatir means it is narrated by so many different narrators that it's illogical to conceive that they came together to conspire on a lie. In other words, we heard this Sahaba over here doesn't need to say this about this hadith. We heard the very same thing from a Sahaba who was in Syria. We heard the same thing from someone that was in Mecca. We heard the same thing from someone that was in Yemen. We heard the same thing from someone who was in the area now known as Oman. We heard the same thing from someone who was in the area now called Qatar. Right? We heard all of this same hadith from different narrators saying the exact same thing. This is mutawatir. This is the strength of that hadith. Right? What we like to call sahih. Authentic. It's an authenticated hadith. And this is what we take when we study Aqidah or Tawheed. Only authenticated. Ahad means there's maybe one narrator. Now, can it still be true? Yeah, it could be. But we prefer to go with what is stronger. And we will accept Ahad hadith so long as it doesn't contradict the mutawatir. Right. Everyone with me? All right. So this is our basis. When we're studying Tawheed, this is our base. And this is what we work from. So anything that comes after what I'm telling you now, we have a filter which to work with as we're having our discussions, as you begin to learn and explore who your Lord is. And I want you to remember that this is an exploration. We are on a journey. We all are on a journey. We're walking on the plane of oneness, returning back to La ilaha illallah. And on this journey, and I literally want you to express yourself and think of yourself as taking or being on a journey. Like, as I like to say, like Kane from Kung Fu. For those of you who remember that show, Kung Fu. You know, we're walking through the deserts. We're walking, journeying, going back to Allah. And we're going to meet all kinds of people and all kinds of situations on that journey. And we're going to deal with people on different levels and different ways. And we're going to have so many different experiences. But we're always focused, right? We're keeping our eyes on the prize because that prize is Allah. Not Jannah, not Firdaus, Allah. That's the focal point, Allah. Finding His love, finding His pleasure, and finding His closeness. That's the journey. Not to everything else. Everything else is nice. But it all comes back to Allah, because without Allah, and if Allah has no pleasure or with me, He has no love with me and the things, my actions and the things that I do, then all this other stuff doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. It's like taking a grain of sand and chucking it into the ocean, if you can even do that. It means nothing. You've affected nothing. It's like dust in the wind. I need Allah. Yeah? That's the journey. And this journey that we're on the tough part on this journey is trying to remember Allah in every occasion. Trying to stay with Allah in every occasion. You know, one thing I do agree with my Salafi brothers is that this should be the very first thing taught. When a person becomes Muslim, boom, you should be studying this. For those people who are engaged in the spiritual aspects of Islam, this is where it begins. Understanding your Lord, who you worshiping. Imam Ghazali says worship is not even accepted unless you know who it is you're worshiping. You're just going through the motions. You don't even know who you're worshiping. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And you sound so good. Got that Fatiha down. Oh, you hear where I said that? Ar-Rahman. You're my ha from Alhamdulillah. Oh man, I'm on point. But if there's no connection to who it is you're saying, Alhamdu, who is Alhamd? Who is Ar-Rahman? If there's no connection to this, then what the heck are you doing? You got some exercise. That's all you got? And some movements. And you sounded really nice. Great. But there's no connection to the one that you're even speaking to. You're doing nothing. You're wasting time. We don't want to be people that are wasting time. So when we're looking at this text, and when we're starting at the seventh principle about kalam, I'm going to read this and then the next section all together, and we'll discuss it. I invite questions, but I ask that you hold them until I at least finish the section and go through it, okay? So that way, because we don't have a whole lot of time. And I'm sorry my intro was a little long, but I hope you get the point, and I'm hoping that what I'm saying to you and to myself, first and foremost, helps us build the base, the foundation for what we're doing in terms of renewing our covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Yes. It's on page 31. So he says, بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين قال المؤلف إمام الغزالي ورحمه الله تعالى عنه في كتاب الأربعين في أصول الدين قال speech al-kalam. He says Bismillah, Allah Azza wa Jal possesses speech. He commands, He forbids, promises, threatens with timeless, eternal speech that subsists in His essence. Okay? One of the things we have to remember is that every attribute that we learn about Allah has been with Allah is, I'm going to phrase that, is eternal as Allah is eternal. In other words, it wasn't Allah, then He decided there should be speech now, I shall have speech. Or I should be Ar-Rahman now. Or it wasn't that after He was merciful that He became known as Ar-Rahman. He was always Ar-Rahman. He's always Ar-Rahim. He's always Al-Kalam, right? Attributed with speech. Always. Right? That's a part of the that. The that is an Arabic word for His essence. Right? He says, it does not resemble the speech of creation. Thus, it is not with a voice that occurs with the passage of air and the contact of organs, nor with the letters that stop with the closing of the lips or the movement of the tongue. Again, we said in our principles that He is not like His what creation? Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. And He's not subjugated. So in other words, He doesn't, in order for His speech, He doesn't need mechanisms for which to speak. We need mechanisms. We need vibrations. We got a little voice box. We haven't even explored the aspects of the voice box. We have a throat. There's sound coming out. My lips and my tongue have to move to initiate letters. To initiate a language, a speech, a form of communication. Does Allah need that? No. He says the Quran, the Torah, the Gospels, and the Psalms are his books revealed to his messengers. The Quran is recited with the tongue, written in volumes, meaning the Mus'haf, meaning the Quran. It is memorized by hearts. However, it is eternal and subsists in the essence of Allah, meaning his attribute. As I said, it was with him. It is eternal as he is eternal. It's not something that just came around later down the line. He says, it is not subject to joining or separation by transmissions to hearts or paper. Right? Musa, I don't want to say Moses, but Musa alayhi salam heard Allah's speech without a voice or letters, just as the virtuous will see the essence of Allah Azza wa Jal without substance, shape, color, or quality. In other words, on the day of judgment, when we're standing to be judged, and there's a difference as to seeing Allah. We won't see Allah. Again, to see Allah says what? Now, in our minds, one moment please. In our minds, when we say see something, there's an object. There's an object. Right? And because of the programs, TV, and all these other things, some dude floating in the air. Right? Some of us might think of some guy with some long white beard and long white hair. Right? Wearing a white thobe, a little rope tied up in some sandals. Right? Because this is what the mind images or imagines, because of the images that we've been fed. One of the things that we're going to talk about on the next page, the mind, first of all, the intellect can only conceive what it has experienced. The intellect cannot move beyond. We don't have the capacity to move beyond what we've experienced and to see certain things. If I told you there's actually a tree that grows money, you wouldn't believe me because you haven't seen it. But in your mind, you start picturing a little thing with a stem, some branches, and some dollar bills hanging off the top, because that's what you've experienced through commercials and other things through life. Wait a minute, now it even look like that. But this is what the mind begins to conceive, because it's what it has experienced. And one of the things that we have to understand and remember is that there is nothing in creation that has been created by man that didn't already exist somewhere else. We're not that clever, folks. I work in IT, and some of the most arrogant people are developers and programmers. They think they know everything, and you know nothing. But your mind can only go but so far. Because when we start developing new apps, and they start doing stuff, and we say, wait a minute, but that won't work because you got this over here. How are these things going to come together? You don't know. Oh, yes, I do know. You know I'm right. And we got to go change that design because if these two things won't work, because it makes the user have to do this and do that and do this. So you overthought the thing, and you thought you were so intelligent that you put something out that won't even work. Or it's not feasible to people who are using it. You're smart, but you're not that smart, folks. We have intelligence, yes, but it only goes but so far. And they say that, one scholar said that Allah is the humiliation of the intellect. Why? Because you cannot prove that Allah exists. You can't. Why? Because He's Allah. Because when you say prove, that means something that's tangible. Something, the proof in and of itself is something that's tangible. Even though we can say, look at the sun, look at the moon, look at the stars, look at the mountains, look at the trees, look at you. Right? There's a show on TV comes on. It's called "The Monsters Within Me," right, on Animal Planet, and it talks about all the little bugs. Like every hair follicle, every hair you have has probably about 1 million little bugs living on it. Right? They talk about all the little things that are inside your body with viruses and bacteria, and then we can just go on. I got a wife that's a biochemist, so I have to hear this conversation all the time, about viruses and bacteria and all this kind of stuff. But it's really amazing what Allah has created. Right? But the thing here is, that the mind cannot prove Allah exists, but you cannot disprove that Allah exists either. And the fact that you can't prove it does not mean that it doesn't exist. That's not a proof that Allah doesn't exist, because you can't prove that He doesn't exist. Because again, He's Allah. So the intellect can only go but so far. And we have to concede to that. Most people don't like being told you're not that smart, or you're not intelligent. I'm not saying you're not intelligent. What I'm saying is that your intelligence only goes but so far. And it can only go based on what is experienced. And that's how we develop our philosophies and our perspectives in life. It's based on what we've experienced and what we've seen, what we've read, what we've been exposed to. And the mind stays within that realm. And again, as we say that His speech goes without substance, shape, color, or quality. Quality and tone. See, again, that's an attribute of what? Creation. If Allah possesses these attributes, right, then He is living, omniscient, omnipotent, willful, hearing, seeing, speaking, with life. Will, hearing, sight, and speech are not merely what His essence. This is not just the that of Allah. In other words, these are what make us human beings, but this doesn't make Allah Allah. These attributes don't make Allah Allah. That's what makes us human beings. In our intellect, we are known logically as animals, but we're known as the logical animals, which means we have an intellect and we have the ability to articulate and to think and to make decisions and to choose to do right or wrong. All right, this is what separates us from other animals. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need these things, or is not defined by these things, is what I want to say. Allah is not defined by these attributes. When you stop to think about these kind of things, you really begin to see that you're nothing. And I don't want you just to listen to my words. I want you to kind of put yourself in perspective in relationship to these things. Because if Allah doesn't need them, but we do. And these are tools that Allah gave us, so how are we using them for His cause? How are we using them to develop ourselves to become better servants to Him? Yeah? And understanding that we're in need of Him for any and everything. We're not independent. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. I don't care what business you may have. You know that everything that you have and everything you are is attributed to Allah's mercy, His grace. That's why you have these things. On the next page, he begins talking about divine actions, al-'adl. He says, there is nothing in existence besides Him except that it occurred by His action and emanated from His justice in the best, perfect, complete, and fairest way. In other words, anything that exists is because of what? Kun, fayakun. Be, and it will be. Be, and it is. However you want to translate it, all comes out the same. It only exists because Allah willed it to be in existence. And nothing is difficult for Him, and everything is just. Now this is the big thing, because most people don't understand what justice is. And again, this is what separates creation from creator. When we say something is not just, and why will Allah give this person this and this person that? Why do we have the rich and why do we have the poor? Why do we have the hungry? Why do we have the overindulgent? Why do we have people suffering? Why do we have people, gluttonous and enjoying the gifts of life and the resources that Allah has given us, while others are struggling? Why would Allah do this? You say that as if you know a better way. As if you got the foresight to see what's really going on. Like you really know what's happening. And that's what always makes me laugh when we have all these things, happening in the world and people want to start talking about, well, the government this and the government. You don't know nothing. Unless you were in a top secret room and you got the file and you were able to read the information and then read all the other intelligence information. Now you might have a point, but you still don't know what's really going on with everything. Because only Allah knows. A lot of these brothers, when Trump became president, a lot of Muslims were like, obviously a lot of people in general were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh, racism, all the racists are back, And some people went to my teacher, Habib Omar, and said, Habib, what are we going to do? What should we do in America? Because then we got Trump. He says, what do you mean what are you going to do? You forget that Trump is there because Allah willed it for him to be there. Nothing's happening that Allah hasn't already written. So what are you talking about? What are you going to do? You turn to Allah, that's what you do. But no, nothing is happening save that Allah has willed it to happen. And then you have to reflect on and for myself, I reflected on the words of the Prophet ﷺ that the people will get the leader that they deserve. You get the leader that you deserve. So, what's that saying, folks?
Wow.
About us. Where are we? Well, just forget America. We are the gift. This country is really surviving off of our dua. On our existence. Don't make no mistake about it, folks. It's because of our dua and the things that we're doing in this country. And not that we're making dua for the country in and of itself, but the fact that our presence is here and we are the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't think that this barakah come in here? Every time that you do something that follows the way of the Sharia, there's blessings. You don't think that those blessings don't affect not just you, they affect everyone around you. When you sit and say, Allahumma astaghfirullah al-mu'minina wal-mu'minat, or Allah forgive the believing men and believing women, that doesn't just affect you. That affects blocks. You understand what I'm saying? Blocks of your neighborhoods, blocks of the area that you live in. Dhikr is not just, it's amazing because we think about dhikr as a little person, think, oh, my heart, mashallah. Oh, I feel so cleansed, oh my God. I feel so close to Allah, I feel cool. You feel that? But the reality is that it's not just you that's benefiting, it's everyone around you. When you do dhikr and you send salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ in your home, it fills the house. It ain't just that one little room. Like, this is my little spiritual room. This is where I go, I pray, and this is where I do my dhikr, and this is where I read all my books. I have all my books in this room because this is the room with the barakah. No, it's the whole house. It's not just the house, it's your neighbors. You live in a subdivision, it covers the whole subdivision. Dhikr is, subhanAllah, something outstanding. And it's a gift that Allah has given us. To even have the knowledge of what dhikr is. The recitation of Quran is dhikr. And it benefits everyone. So don't think that this country is just standing on its own. It's being benefited by our very existence, our presence here in this country. So you may be making dua, things like that, okay, alhamdulillah, but it's benefiting this country. But at the same time, we still are slack in our da'wah. And when I say da'wah, I don't mean just necessarily calling people to Islam. I'm talking about the way that we are as individuals in our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we're not seeking that closeness. I told the students that were with me for Arabic, one time my teacher, Habib Omar, we were in Oakland, California. No, we had gone to San Francisco. We were taking him to the airport. These two white ladies wearing sandals, or flip-flops and shorts and tank tops, ran up to our teacher and said, we don't know who you are, but would you pray for us? Now a couple of the brothers were about to say, hey, get back. You know what I mean? Like, what you doing over here, woman? Dressed like that in front of the Sheikh. You know what I mean? But before anyone could, I saw a couple of us move, but you looked at him first, and he started smiling. So then you knew it was okay. So you stopped. And these women said, would you please pray for us? And they threw their hands up. But how do you know throw their hands up? They just did please. And he made dua for them. And they walked away. Oh, thank you so much. You see, presence is dawah. You don't have to open your mouth once. Meaning, have you heard of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Have you heard of Islam? No. Your presence, even in the workplace, your presence, how you deal with everybody. And I don't mean, but well, my name is Muhammad, but call me Mo. No, that ain't dawah. My name is Muhammad. And I'm a man of honor and of character. And I'm a man of scruples. I have morals. I have integrity. I work hard. I go above and beyond because that's what the Muslim is supposed to do. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you kill well. Meaning, if you're going to do something, you put everything into it. Ihsan, when we talk about ihsan, we define it usually as, doing things as though you see Allah, knowing that if you can't see Allah, then verily He sees you. Alhamdulillah. But what does that mean? It means everything that you do, you better be doing it well because your Lord is watching you. And you are a representative as a Muslim of La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So therefore, your attitude has to be one of perfection. It has to be one of being complete and quality. A person of standards. You understand that? That's dawah. That's dawah. He says, he is the wise with his actions and just in his decisions. His justice is not compared to the justice of his slaves. For wrongdoing is conceivable for the slave by him meddling with another's property. But it is inconceivable for Allah Azza wa Jal, because none other than him has any property to be wrongly dealt with in the first place. Everything belongs to Allah. And as He manipulates things and does things, you don't own nothing. You know what's funny to me? How a person can come into another person's land, make up some laws, then tell you you're violating the laws of taking your land. I don't acknowledge your laws. You got no law here. I'm sorry, it's my land. You don't own nothing. It's interesting because Native Americans have that understanding. You don't own anything. How can you claim to own something that wasn't yours to begin with? This belongs to the Creator. In a sense, we're just tourists. We honestly are. We're tourists in this life. In the hadith it says, be in this life like a traveler. Be in this life like a traveler. Because what? You're just passing through. We're just passing through. La ish ila al-ish al-akhirah. There's no life except the life of the hereafter. This is just a little time we're spending and we're moving forward, right? We own nothing. Remember that. We try to hold on to money and all these things and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I understand, you got to have a little something in case something happens in the house and stuff like that. But remember, it's only Allah who allows these things to happen. Because one day you come to your account and look like, oh my God, what happened? Insurance went up, you didn't know. Homeowners Association bill went up. If you forgot to check your email to read that. Money just got taken out your account. Well, I thought I had. Allah does as He wills. And we have to learn to be, as one person said to me, you have to learn to be content with the Allah's decree. That's our responsibility, to become content with what Allah has decreed for us. And no, as we just read, that He is not unjust. It's impossible for Allah to be unjust. He says everything besides Him, whether jinn or human, demon or angel, heaven or earth, animal or plant, substance or thought, abstract or concrete, is an occurrence which He, meaning Allah, invented with His power and fabricated from non-existence, bringing it into existence after it had been nothing. Right? We just said that. Allah creates everything from nothing. Yet man creates only from things that have already existed. Everything has its root in something else that's already existed. Man has never just conceived anything out of nothing and made something. Something was inspiring for him to come up with a thought. But even the thought was given to you by Allah. We like to say you were inspired to do. That's what we say, you're inspired. No, Allah gave you the thought, brothers and sisters. He says, He had existed alone throughout eternity and nothing was with Him. He brought about the creation as a manifestation of His power and a realization of His will to actualize what He has spoken since eternity, not because of any need for it. He didn't need to create us. And this is the aspect of the attribute we recite in Surah Al-Ikhlas, As-Samad. As-Samad. Qul Allahu Ahad, Allahu Samad. Samad means that He is in need of nothing, yet everything is in need of Him. He's in need of nothing, yet everything is in need of Him. Because we wouldn't exist without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're always reminded of this when we need stuff, aren't we? That's when you pull out every prayer you know that gets answered. That's when you pull out every dhikr that you know, and you be asking people for dhikr and dua. Right? You're praying real hard. That's when you pray with the most clarity. When you need something. Because you're really trying to make it strong. The problem is that we're always in need. Everyone here understands what hospice is, right? Everybody understand, brothers, you all understand what hospice is, right? It's a place that you can, for my kids who probably don't know. Basically, when a person on hospice, it usually means you're about to die. You're about to be gone from this world, right? I saw a license plate yesterday. It said, for a person in hospice, every day is a good day. Meaning every day, because if you're alive, it's like, woo! Alhamdulillah. If you're Muslim, that is. Hallelujah, if you're some Christian. Or, yeah, if you don't believe in God. Right? You're just happy to wake up. Yes. One more day. One more day. Right? For us, every day is hospice. Every day, for all of us, is hospice. We're in a state of hospice right now. Again, from the same hadith I just mentioned about being a traveler, you don't know. It says that if you make it to the night, don't expect to make it to the day. And if you make it to the day, don't expect to make it to the night. We got to be grateful for the moments that we have. Grateful for every breath that we're taking. And not take this time for granted. And that's part of our problem. We take everything for granted. We act like we're owed this. Like we're entitled to this. And we're not. This is a gift. Your Islam is a gift. I don't care if you were born into this deen. Allah can take it from you. أعوذ بالله من ذلك. Ya Allah, إثبات أقدامنا على صراط المستقيم. Make firm our feet on this straight path. Because Allah can take it. Allah does what He wants, with whom He wants, how He wants. We have to remember this. And thank Allah for every day that we get. We are in need of Him, not the other way around, folks. We need our Lord. I'll be given a 5-minute warning, so I want to read this section because I want to complete it. He says, his creating, inventing, and making us responsible was out of his grace, not out of obligation. He has been immensely generous by blessing us and making the world suitable for our existence, which he was not obliged to do. He possesses grace and goodwill, blessings and gifts, but for on the other hand, he's capable of afflicting his slaves with every sort of torture and testing them with agony and suffering. Indeed, if he were if he were to do so, it would be just, not immoral or wrong. The rewards of his slaves for their obedience, as his generosity and promise dictate, not due to entitlement or necessity. Nothing is required of him, and it is inconceivable that he would be unjust. No one has any right over him. All of creation, on the other hand, is required to recognize his right to obedience, as he ordained it by the tongues of his messengers and not by mere reason. Rather, he sent the messengers and manifested their truthfulness by means of clear miracles. They conveyed his commands, prohibitions, promises, and threats. It is required of creation to affirm their truthfulness in delivering their message. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and it will be you or them who are questioned, not him. On that day, it will be us that are questioned. We ain't gonna come up, well, Lord, why did you do this? See, wait a minute, hold on a second, Lord, you trying to put me in the hellfire, but did you write this for me in the first place? That has nothing to do with you choosing to do it. There's not going to be any conversation, folks. There ain't going to be no trying to rationalize. No. You were given clear instruction. Right? And I'm saying this as Muslims. Allah even says in Surah Al-Baqarah that if you turn on your heels after knowledge has been given to you, no help from your Lord will you receive. You're given knowledge, folks. Now, here's the thing about this. I told you earlier, we're chosen, right? Allah's given us knowledge. He's given us an opportunity to reflect on some things that we've just spoken about. Right? You can't claim ignorance anymore. You cannot claim ignorance. You're at the point right now where you have to act. I have to act. I've got to walk the walk as I talk the talk. Otherwise, I'll be like that scholar we heard about in the hadith. That will be as if people are walking by Jahannam, I'll be in that room being twirled around by my innards. Why? Because I did not practice what I told you to do. We have to act because this has come to us. And even people who say, well, no, I'm not going to another class. You know what? You can't claim that either because when you stand before Allah, you say, oh, I didn't know. Well, wait a minute. Didn't I send Sheikh Muhammad to you? Didn't I send Sheikh AbdulKarim to you? Didn't I give you Imam Sulaimaan? Did I give you all these opportunities, these classes to attend? Did I not even give you the internet so you could have online classes? You could have been sitting in your drawers taking the class. What happened to that? You got no excuse anymore. And I'm sorry if I'm getting a little loud or preachy, and I do apologize because I don't want to be preachy. I hate that. I don't want to be talked at, I want to be talked to. And my time is up. Sorry, brother. But the reality is this, folks. We have to act. And the acting starts in this foundation, understanding your Lord and understanding where He comes, well, not where He comes from, but understanding what He's saying to us. That's what I meant to say about where He's coming from. Understand where Allah is trying to take us. And that's to Him. That's to Him. And we have a choice. The other day I was driving and it was time for me to make asr. And I'm driving and I'm like, man, I don't even have wudu. And I'm on the highway. I was about to get on 285. And I was like, you know what? In all honesty, there was absolutely nothing stopping me from going to the gas station and making wudu. Honestly, there's nothing stopping me except me. I'm still driving, looking at the gas station. And I'm saying, this is the power of the nafs. Because trust me, I got on 285. But alhamdulillah, I had a little bottle of water, and I said, we got to break the nest. And literally, I was driving, making wudu. Dangerous as that was, I said, I'm going to make that wudu. And if I die, Allah will bear witness, I was dying trying to make that wudu for His sake. Officer, I'm sorry, I was making wudu. What the heck is wudu? Don't worry about it, officer, it's something I was doing. I'll take the ticket, I'll take the tow trucks, we'll just handle this. But the point is that I'm looking at it, I'm saying nothing is, and the point I'm making is there's nothing stopping us except ourselves. There's nothing that keeps us from doing things except ourselves. And I'm going to say this story in closing. Once there was a man who came to a Sheikh and said, "Yeah, Sheikh, I want to stop sinning." The Sheikh said, so he walked over to a little pillar, jumped up on it, grabbed it, and started doing, the pillar's got me, it won't let me go! The pillar won't let me go! He's screaming, and the man's looking like, what's going with this man? He's going to lose it. Sheikh, just let it go. Just let it go, Sheikh. Just let it go. The Sheikh got off, calmed down, looked down and said, there's your answer. You want to stop sinning? Let it go. Let it go. Easier said than done. But let it go. The only thing that's standing between you and your and being in divine presence is you. We've read, we've heard over and over again, Allah is closer to us than our jugular veins. The only reason why we have distance between Allah is because we've moved away from Allah, not Allah moving away from us. But Allah will let you. He will let you move further and further away. So again, let us re-establish our covenant with Allah. Understand He is a Samad. That everything needs Him. That He's in need of nothing. I'm sorry, I don't even think we have time for questions. But when I come back, if we have questions, we'll start with that. You ask me whatever you want to, or if you want to ask me while I'm walking around, no problem. Okay? Allah bless you, guide you, strengthen you. And I hope that through this day you spend it not only just listening but contemplating. Let this be a day of reflection as well as just learning. Because reflection is a part of learning. As Sheikh AbdulKarim said, that when you practice that for what you don't know, Allah gives you knowledge of that for what you do not know. That part of that is because there's reflection. And there needs to be reflection in the things that we're doing, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, Amin. And my apologies for taking too long. And again, forgive me for getting loud, emotional, and if I sound preachy, please forgive me. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. So we went slightly over, but alhamdulillah, I want to thank Sheikh Jamal Ud-Deen for a wonderful lesson. We're going to go, we're going to try to stick to the schedule, inshallah. Our next session is with Sheikh Amin, Muhammad, who's getting ready to come back in. So it's 10:08. The session starts at 10:10. So we're just going to pretty much get right into that in about 2 minutes. So please don't go far. We're going to resume in about 2 minutes, inshallah. Stretch.